Hi, everyone. Welcome to the third edition of Talk Death, Bodies and Forensic Science with Vidal Herrera. Hi, Vidal.
Hi.
So I'm Mandy.
I'm Jeremy.
And we're going to do some quick intros and then get right into your awesome questions. If you're on Twitter or watching this on YouTube or on Google, send us your questions with #TalkDeath, and we will hopefully get to all of them. There are quite a few already. So to give a little bit of background, I'm the founder of Keeper, and we're a social memorial website where you can store and share all the photos, videos, and stories of your loved ones for free and interact with the Keeper community. And our mobile app, which just came out and it's really awesome, you can see it over here. And essentially what it does is it gives you exact directions to a monument in a cemetery. And a really cool function, I'll show you actually. Basically what happens is you would just take a photo of the monument and the memorial will come up on your phone, so you can actually discover all the interesting lives and the stories that are within a cemetery. So go on to the Play Store and go onto your App Store and download it now for free. And that's my little plug. Thank you, guys.
So I'm Jeremy. I'm the communications director here at Keeper, but I'm also a graduate student in religious studies, and I focus on death and dying. And so for those of you who are watching your first Talk Death event, this is really the chance for you, the general public, to ask members of the death profession and community your questions. We noticed a huge divide between the public and professionals, especially considering that you will only encounter a death professional in a funeral setting. So the ultimate goal of Talk Death then is to promote death positivity by creating an open and honest discussion about this huge taboo and fear in Western culture.
So without further ado, we are very lucky to have Mr. Herrera for today's episode. So to give you a bit of background, Vidal Herrera is a retired Deputy Medical Investigator. He is the founder of 1-800-AUTOPSY and is also a Hollywood consultant. Vidal and his team are based in East Los Angeles and provide autopsy services to the public, procurement services for various research institutions, hospitals, and the legal profession. Vidal has assisted with over 19,000 autopsies during his 40-year career in forensics. But Vidal is really a jack of all trades. He has become a technical consultant for big budget Hollywood movies, which recently includes the movie Concussion, and various television crime scene shows, all while continuing to perform autopsies.
So Vidal, is there anything here that we missed that you'd like to add? Maybe you can tell us something about yourself that people might not know.
Yeah, I actually became an accidental entrepreneur. I was injured on the job in 1984. I ruptured 3 discs in my back. I had surgery. Basically a disabled person. Nobody would give me a job. And all I know how to do was autopsies. And fortunately, it turned into a business. And that was 29 years ago. And that segued into Hollywood, coffin couches. We do so many different things. But our day job, bread and butter, is autopsies.
Okay, great.
Awesome. So I guess we'll get right into the questions. We got a lot of questions from Twitter and Google and our blog and Facebook. So thank you all, first of all, for asking all these questions. And if you are currently online, then go ahead, tweet at us or send us a message on Facebook. We have Greg on the other end, who's our behind the scenes guy right now. He's gathering all your questions. So everyone say hi to Greg. And let's get started then.
All right, so Vidal, the first question we got, the question is, what's the biggest discrepancy or difference between what we see on CSI TV shows and real life?
Well, the biggest discrepancy, believe it or not, the reality of entertainment. One thing I learned about going to the movie sets, offering my service as a technical advisor, is actually speaking to the writers who've never even been in a forensic settings, who have never been in a morgue. We're able to get all the information out of reading books. So when we go to a set, we literally used to argue, and they would pay me anywhere from $200 to $300 an hour, and I was required to be on a set for 14 hours. And you cannot read a book because it violates union bylaws. But they have a lot of Trucks, you can eat, you can talk, do whatever. But for me, it became very boring. And as I said, we would get into arguments. And what I learned is it's entertainment. They want to have a lot of color, a lot of lights. They want to entertain the public. So as a consequence, they really have a distorted perception of what a forensic setting is. It's great that has come along, all these different, what they call franchises, because it has drawn a lot of interest to young people who want to become CSI investigators. Mm-hmm. What I call they come us, they want to volunteer, they want to do a lot of things. And as I tell them, we look at their maturity, how old they are, how much education they have, and how much passion they have for this industry. That's how we evaluate them. But what I learned from Hollywood is it's entertainment. It's a show business. It's a business like anything else. And that's how I perceive it now.
Do you have one example, perhaps on one episode, where you saw something and you were like, does not make sense. That is not how that's done?
Well, the most recent program is called Roswell, I believe, or Rosewood. That actually was a TV program. It was going to be me, my company, and it never happened. They selected someone else. But when they put lights inside an autopsy table and all these color lights in the cabinets, and if you look back, believe it or not, all the way back to Frankenstein, if you look at the movie sets, they're all the same. Set directors that they come out and they have the preconceived idea of what it's like, and we tell them in a real morgue, and hopefully one day we'll have an opportunity to show you a real morgue. We call it the kiss it syndrome. Keep it simple, stupid. Some things have never changed in terms of equipment, instruments, because when we work at a very fast pace because the cases come in. We don't have time to adjust lights. We don't have computer screens in a mortuary or a forensic settings. Again, that's all entertainment. So what happens is that's the perception the public gets, and that actually follows through and goes into the judicial system. When jurors go to court, they have the CSI syndrome, and they think what they see on TV is real, and it's not.
Okay, very interesting. Let's go ahead to the next one. So this one is Michael from the blog. What happens when your findings don't match with what the police think happened?
Usually that happens quite frequently, particularly when you have police-involved shootings, in custody deaths. Here in Southern California, when the late attorney Johnny Cochran was alive, we did most of his cases. We were in the background. Nobody ever knew who we were. But as an example, this past year, Los Angeles County, they're going to pay, I believe, in excess of $30 million for cases involve police deaths.
Wow.
So 99.9% of the time, these cases never go to trial because they're settled out of court. And one of the major reasons is we do a second autopsy and we're able to see the mistakes they overlook. And it upsets me because forensics for me, we're a family. We work together. We work for the public. And when I see a pattern of complacency, I call them up and I tell them, look, I'm seeing this, and well, it's none of your business. And it's arrogance. They just don't want to, they don't want to listen because it's their case. And I understand that. I said, but we work together. But if you want to listen, the facts are going to come out when we go to court.
Why do you think there's such a discrepancy between forensics findings?
Again, it's arrogance. One thing, a doctor never wants to be questioned that they did something wrong. And what people don't really understand is when you have all these different doctors, just say, for instance, in Los Angeles County, we have, I believe, 20 different doctors. Well, each doctor is trained differently at different medical school. There are no universal accepted procedures. They do it so when they are questioned, they don't like it. And I'm right. And being a former civil servant, now I don't have to worry about being terminated, being laid off, being reprimanded, being spoken to, down-talked. As I tell them, they can go fuck themselves. I don't care who they are or who they think they are.
Not safe for work, everybody.
Families are paying me to do a service, and that's what we do. There's a saying in forensics, it is what it is, and that's what we do. We deal with only the facts.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see how that can cause a lot of tension for sure, because it's almost someone's word against another person, and it's, you know, you're two professionals that are both highly respected, so I can definitely see how that can cause issues.
Sometimes they're adversaries, and I tell them, we're not adversaries. We're not battling here. We're doing a service. Mm-hmm. And the first thing it says, well, you're not a doctor. You're not qualified to make the decision. I said, I understand. I'm not a doctor, and I don't profess to be a doctor. But my experience, you do it over and over and over, and you see the same thing over. And I'll go into detail what I see, what their mistakes are, and they don't like hearing it, but that's what happens.
Okay. All right, so do you want to ask the next question?
Yeah, so also from our blog, Arthur wants to know, maybe a bit of a morbid question, but what's the worst state of a body, either decomposition or due to an accident, that you've had to perform an autopsy on? And when that happens, what are the challenges?
Well, the most common is when you have a person that's burned beyond recognition in a fire, a car accident, plane accidents. It's basically based on DNA, dental records, and that's it. Cases where we've exhumed for identification for paternal reasons, we've exhumed bodies up to 30, 40 years. And the smell is quite different than a regular decomposed body, because there's a difference between a human being and an animal and a body that's been in the ground for 20, 30 years.
That's super interesting. Do you want to elaborate on that? It's like almost too, like there's so many questions I have, but maybe they're too morbid. Okay, let's move on then.
When we do an exhumation, when we arrive at a cemetery, we have to take an exterior photograph of the actual cemetery, the address, and then when you go into a cemetery, they have little streets. Just like a regular neighborhood, you take the photograph of the street, the curved number where the gravesite is located. They have a marker at the gravesite. You photograph that. We have to take a sample of soil to make sure that is the correct soil. Then when they dig, they remove the date, open the tomb, they remove the casket. And if it's been inundated with water, which happens all the time, and they say that they're waterproof, and they're not. That's just a business ploy. We open up the casket, and there's fungus. Can't even see the body. It's a layer of blanket of fungus, and then you go through that. There's a series of photographing. Then you actually remove the body. And many times we do the autopsy right there next to the gravesite on the floor.
Wow.
We use battery-operated equipment because it's almost impossible to get an extension cord or a generator out there. So that's what we do. And then you deal with the smell, you deal with the bodies, and you just don't even think about it. You just have to go forward and you do what you do.
Yeah.
What's the reason that you end up having to do that most often?
Yeah, like give us an example of maybe when you had to do that.
Most of the time is for DNA, because of paternity. There's money involved, inheritance. Like here, because we're in Southern California, Hollywood, many former record executives, entertainments, they have money. And they have illegitimate children, and they want some money, so they have to prove this, in fact, is their loved one.
Oh, that's really sad, actually. I feel like to disrupt a grave like that for money, that's unfortunate.
Well, if you were to die and all of a sudden somebody tells you have a long lost uncle and there's millions of dollars there, it's going to draw some interest.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, so let's move on to the next one. This one's from Mark from YouTube, and he wants to know, why is it that the death profession in general has such a behind closed doors mentality, or either on both ends? Why is it seen that it's always behind closed doors, and maybe why do the professionals actually keep it behind closed doors?
Well, most of that is the impression that's obviously we see on entertainment, the jury, the music in the background. But honestly, the reason it's like a closed door, because it's a closed door society. People who work in the death care industry, I always say they are special people. It takes a special person to work with dead bodies every day. Not only that, the emotions that you deal with the families, the outcomes, and you have privacy issues. Because there are many times when we should do autopsies, the media would be outside circling. They want to know what happened. We come out, we cannot talk to them because it's a privacy issue. This happens all the time. So they don't let strangers come in. When celebrities die, they have security guard everywhere because all these wannabes come out of nowhere, autograph hunters. They want to take a photograph. And now with social media, it really gets out of hand. But again, going back to history, it's because of religious beliefs, cultural beliefs, and just basically respect, dignity, and privacy for the family.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
I actually have a question based on what you just said. Has there ever been any issues in terms of religion? Someone wanting to have a body exhumed, but another family member not wanting to for religious reasons, or an example like that?
That happens every day when you have families, siblings squabbling, ex-wives, ex-girlfriends, and things of that nature. It always comes down legally the next of kin, whoever the legal next of kin is. When it comes to religious, we have Jewish, Indians, different Indians, Buddhists, Catholics, everything. For us, a body is a body is a body. We treat every case the same. We don't have time to go outside, and sometimes they have religious people walking around as we're doing the autopsy. They're praying.
Wow.
They have candles, and that's fine. Those are their customs. We respect them, but they cannot come in our compound. They cannot be present at the autopsy. Nobody is allowed, because that just takes up more time. Many times attorneys request it, and only if they have permission from the family. But again, that takes more time from us because they begin asking questions.
Okay, great. We actually just got a question from the internet. Were there any times you had to use an unconventional method to solve a problem? I wonder what unconventional he was thinking of, but
not really, just different circumstances, different locations where we were at, but basically a death is a death. We treat every case the same. When something comes up, we document it, everything's photographed, because again, photographs don't lie. We have to be prepared to defend our findings in a court of law. So yeah, they have different scenarios. They get many, we call hearsay from a family here, a witness there. We don't take that into account. The body tells us what happened, and the evidence is there.
okay. You want to get another question?
Sure. So the next one is from Connie on Facebook. And she wants to know, how do you keep your heart out of it, if that's even possible to do? And how do you detach every day? You know, after what you've witnessed, like, do you, when you go home, you leave work, like, can you actually leave work behind you?
Well, that's a question that's commonly asked. And someone asked me that the other day. We talk about first responders, police officers, firemen, ambulance personnel that go to scenes, and how they get hurt, how they're traumatized, but they never talk about crime scene investigators, deputy medical, what they see on a daily basis. And yes, it does affect you. For me, this started back when I actually began this profession. I was a volunteer. And what they told me is, you do not ask questions. We tell you that, you say yes, sir, or no, sir. And when I was placed into a room with 10 different tables, 10 different bodies, I'm there with many, many people. You don't have time to think about each body, because everybody has a different story. Mm-hmm. And you start lagging, you pick up read it, you're out, they eject you. So when I got into this profession as a volunteer, they had 750 volunteers. 2.5 years I was the only one that made it, because I followed orders. And yes, there were many times, because several of my friends were killed, and they were there 3 feet away from me. And I wanted to go and look at them, but I couldn't, because I knew they were looking at me. But you separate the reality of what's happening. You compartmentalize your thoughts.
Yeah.
Again, you have to focus on the next body. So you do it like that, it starts again. The next page comes up, you do it, and you just keep doing it. And that's how you do it. And yes, there are times that I was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress syndrome back in 1985. That's the first time I ever heard of the word. I do have what they call nightmares. I don't look at them as nightmares. I just dream about cases. But it has affected me, but I don't look at it positively. It's just part of what we do.
Yeah, I mean, and you speak about this really passionately, and I'm curious if you've ever been able to pinpoint what about this job allows you to be so passionate.
I guess it's when I started, when I saw the enormity, it just galvanized my conscience, and I said, wow, this is incredible. I want to learn more. And, when I was young, I was going to be an altar boy, thinking about religion. And you put out religion, because the things you see on a daily basis. I remember I went to a priest and asked him, if there is a God, why does it allow these people to be killed in this manner? He gave me a typical religious, and because of that, I don't think of religion anymore. In my heart, I do think about it, but I don't practice it, because I see the real world, what's happening.
Great. That's awesome. So we got another question. How long does an autopsy take on average, and is it physically exhausting?
Well, the physicality of doing autopsies, people, again, you don't see that on TV. The handling of one thing they have never showed is how a body is processed. with its fingerprint, it's undressed, and it's photographed. You have to actually turn the body. And it's very difficult. They slip because you have to wet them. There are different accidents, but just the mere weight. And now with our society with obesity, the bodies are getting bigger and bigger. And you just do it. You have to do it.
Yeah, that sounds like quite the challenge, honestly.
Yeah, CSI shows it seems no one sweats. It seems like a really easy thing that they're doing.
Yeah, you actually don't usually see them moving the bodies.
When I first started this profession, we used to wear white pants, orderlies. And the thing that was very important, which people don't realize, we used to wear black belt. But now they just wear scrubs. But that black belt gave you lower lumbar support to move and handle bodies. So that's gone. So that's why you see more people ergonomically injuring their backs, lifting bodies. It's very, very physical. So an average autopsy for us could take anywhere a minimum of 2 hours to 10 hours, depending on the knife wounds that we see, the gunshots. You have to get the trajectory, the photographs, and bring X-ray people to X-ray the body. But when we do them, usually we do what we call the daily regular cases. It averages 2 hours. Sometimes we don't even talk because you're in a mode. You're just working. You work with a doctor. You're a team. You know what the doctor expects, and you just do. When you see something, you stop. You photograph it. You collect it. You remove it. You save it. You just keep working. And then once that's completed, because I work in the private profession, I have my own lab. We have a refrigerator, and we have been known to have a beer after our autopsy. It relaxes our nerves, and then we continue until we finish. And we can do anywhere from 4 to 10 autopsies a day, one after the other.
Okay, so then in that case, we have one that kind of follows. What's the most interesting or maybe memorable case you've come across?
There's been so many cases, and I would have to honestly say the most memorable case I had, and again, this is because of my upbringing, the things that were happening in the 60s was Coretta Scott King. That was the wife of Martin Luther King, and the impact she had as an African American for civil rights. So, and the dawn of the awakening for Latinos, we became Chicanos. So that was all part of it. So that really, for me, that was one of the most memorable cases. We've done so many celebrities, but again, just another body. Since you asked me this question, that's the only case. And I've done a lot of high-profile cases in the past. I really would not dwell in remembering because, again, a person is never based on one case. There's just so many. But since you asked me this question, that is the most memorable case I will ever. And it was a simple, straight, natural death. Nothing unique about it. And that was that.
Is there a big difference between dealing with these high-profile celebrity cases in terms of the publicity that you're getting? Like, does it ever become a problem for you?
No, it never does, because again, we cannot speak to the media. Privacy, we can get sued. And again, we look at everybody as body is a body is a body. Literally, when we do a celebrity, our building is surrounded by media, helicopters, they come around, and we just don't answer the questions.
LA really is a different world, I think, than what most people are used to.
Yeah, we don't say indeed, we say in dead.
So what would you say is, where I guess you're located in East Los Angeles, what's the most common cause of death that you see on your table?
The most common cause of death, and again, this becomes during the year when the flu epidemic comes out, when heat comes out, elderly people, but usually natural cases, because in Los Angeles County, it's 4,075 square miles. We have a population of about 10.25 million with an additional 1.5 illegal aliens. 10 years ago, the death rate every single day was 176. Now it's 219 a day. Between 50 to 70 go to the medical examiner's office. All the rest, we say they're floating out there in purgatory. These are the ones that die at hospitals, convalescent homes, and autopsies are almost to a zero. They don't do them. And based on the Trial Lawyers Association, 49.9% of all deaths are misdiagnosed. And the only way to definitively know is what happens is you do an autopsy. So about 10% of our cases end up being medical malpractice cases, and they settle out of court. A lot of things happening that the public are unaware of. We don't share this with anybody because it's all private.
Do you think, you've been in this business for a very long time. Have you noticed any shift in the public's perspective on talking about death and dying? Has there been more of an ease you find? Do you find that there's more interest in what you do? Can you speak on that?
It's, again, this started, I would say, 15 years ago with the advent of the CSI shows. It's fascinated the public, so a lot of people ask questions. A lot of young writers come around. They write stories. We have a movie studio that we rent to the public to film commercials, photography, music videos. But it's their fascination with death, because one thing, death is always in. It will never leave. People will always be inquisitive of the thereafter. For me, a person's dead, there is no thereafter. Nobody has proven to us scientifically, religiously, that something happened. Like right now is Easter, they're waiting for the coming of Jesus Christ. Well, we've been waiting forever. Where's the boy at? Life goes on. And it just, every day somebody dies and somebody's born.
Yeah, it literally is the one thing that we all have in common. And, that's the reason why we want to talk about this so openly with people who work with this every day, because it's so prevalent. And yet, we even received a few negative comments on Facebook of people who were wondering why we wanted to talk about death and why they would try to spend their next half hour talking about it with us.
You watch TV and look at all these vampire shows, The Walking Dead, all these zombie shows. People are fascinated. The ratings are there. They make movies. People go out and spend money. And the question always is there life after death?
That's interesting, because we do live in a culture. It's almost a paradox. We live in a culture that's obsessed with death, and we watch vampire shows and we watch CSI, but then we don't want to talk about it. We don't want to actually deal with it in real life.
Because it's behind a veil, right? When Hollywood is involved, we all know that.
My brother died a couple of years ago. Then my mother, then my father. So when it happens to you, you think about it differently. But just for a second. Then after that, hey, they're gone, and my day is going to come also.
Absolutely.
We got a question from Twitter, and I'm very sorry if that person's watching, but I forget what their Twitter handle was. But the question was, what's the hardest news you've ever had to tell a family? Or what's always difficult? What's the most difficult thing to approach a family about?
When I was an investigator, when you watch the news, there's a car accident on the freeway. The body has been identified, but we're not going to release the name until pending notification of family. Well, part of the job of a coroner investigator is you notify the family. So we would go out there and knock on the door and introduce ourselves and let them know that, are you related to this person? Yes, we're sorry for him, but he or she's been killed in a car accident or a victim of homicide. And you watch them collapse, they scream, they don't believe you, and they get angry. So many times we had to be accompanied by police officers. And that's part of that, the anguish. But again, when families call us, we don't meet them physically. We speak to them on the phone, and you could feel the sorrow they're experiencing, especially when given the findings. Usually when we do an autopsy, we will let them know within 24 hours what we found at time of the cause, the gross findings, and they will be given a full and complete autopsy report. But initially, we tell them what happened. Well, that's not what the hospital told me. I said, well, hospital, coroner, they could have said whatever. This is what we have, and we have the photographs to support it. And they go into a rage or whatever, or thank you. And usually, on a positive note, is the calls we get most are from a daughter, a mother, or a grandmother, did they take care of their parent adequately? Because now we have so much elder care. They feel guilty. And this is why many times they'll have a body exhumed, because they say, I couldn't sleep. I need to know what happened. And we provide that service, the closure for them. And again, we get calls and we tell them, most of the time autopsies aren't needed. We ask them, why do you want an autopsy? Tell us right out, but we know instantaneously they want accountability. They're looking for money. And you don't have a case. We tell them you don't have a case. If anybody accepts a case like this, it's fraudulent. They're just taking advantage of you. That's why we turned down many cases, like we did Michael Jackson, Whitney Houston. There was no reason for a second autopsy. We'll never do a case just for the sake of money. It's just unethical.
And how can you distinguish whether it's for money or whether it's for closure purposes? People often find that
by the type of questions they're asking.
Okay.
We have an estate, we have a house here, we have this and that, and you know, my mom died and my father got a new girlfriend, and all of a sudden she changed everything to her name, and I said, well, we're sorry, but that's really out of our realm. We're just deal with the body. Now, if she has power of attorney and you want an autopsy, she said, no, you can't have it. And we have to tell the children that we can't have it. Ex-wife and something, I'm going to do it just to shut those motherfuckers up because they're accusing me I killed them. We'll do it, and there it is. There's just the facts. The kids call us, well, we want this. It doesn't matter what you want. It's what the body presented us. And that's what we have.
Okay. Well, I think we are just about finished right now. We're just past 12:30. So first of all, Vidal, thank you so much for your time and for your insight.
Before we leave you, is there anything that you would like us to know? Anything that you want to promote?
That you want us to share?
No, not at all. I mean, I welcome these kinds of conversations because this is an opportunity for the public to really ask questions. Hopefully, if we have another round two, that we would have more people. And this way, we would have it at our laboratory. We'll walk you through our actual morgue, our movie set that we have, and how you'll see how we adhere to Hollywood standard. And again, it's a business. You know, this is what they want. We give it to them. But deep down inside, we know that's not real. But they give you a check, and hey, you just move on.
It'd be great to do a tour next time. So I think maybe we'll have a special edition of Talk Death coming up. So keep in touch. And also talking about Talk Death coming up, our next edition in April is going to be all about green funerals and green burial. And we're going to have a member of the Green Burial Council, actually the founder of the Green Burial Council. And we're not going to spoil the other one, but it's a really amazing urban project. I'll leave it at that. So thank you again, Vidal. And everyone, I just wanted to remind you that you can watch this video afterwards on YouTube. So thank you to all of our live visitors, and thank you to those of you watching at home in the future, our future watchers.
And thank you so much, Vidal. We really appreciate you taking the time to speak to us and to speak to our community, and we appreciate it.
Yeah. And also go on to, I know it's backwards, but go download the Keeper app, go on your iPhone or on your Android device, and start discovering lives in cemeteries. And it's so much fun. So please let us know about that.
Vidal, sorry, were you about to say something?
Yeah, your community, if they want to have any questions, they can email us info@1800autopsy.com or just visit our website, www.1800autopsy.com.
The conversation will continue.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, thank you guys so much. Bye, Internet world.
Bye.